Okay guys, welcome back to the third part of your chemistry intensive training. Alright, so right now we're going to go into the preparation of salt over here. By now we should be well versed with all the chemical reaction of your acid and alkaline. Okay, as well as we should know the different type of oxides, okay, indicators, as well as what's very important is actually your solubility table. Okay, now before we actually prepare a salt, we need to consider two things. This should be in our thought process. Number one, is the salt soluble? Alright, and how do I know whether a salt is soluble? I will go back to my solubility table. So therefore, I hope you can understand that the solubility table is really the fundamental for the whole chapter on salt preparation. Okay, and after that, after I know whether a salt is soluble, I need to decide whether the reactant or the starting material is soluble in water. Okay, so this will affect the whole understanding of preparation of salt. Okay, if we are still a little bit confused with the solubility of salt, I will encourage you to revisit the previous session. So first of all, we're going to move on with the preparation of insoluble salt. Alright, so take note, insoluble salt meaning that the salt is insoluble. Okay, and this is actually prepared by the method known as precipitation method. Example, okay, we know that all sulfates are soluble except for your calcium, lead and barium, so this is insoluble. All chlorides are soluble except for lausite, meaning to say this is lead and silver. And all carbonates are insoluble except for sodium, potassium, ammonium. So this is basically a recollection of your solubility table. So what happened during salt preparation? You need to know this reaction. Alright, so what do I mean by this? Alright, this concept over here is known as ion exchange. So first of all, take note, you have got A and B as a particular compound, C and D as a compound. So we must know that in aqueous state, alright, A will exist as ions, B will also exist as ions, because as we know they are in aqueous state, and aqueous state means in solution state, the ions are able to move around freely. So likewise over here I have C ions and D ions. Alright, so if I want to prepare an insoluble salt is a solid. So therefore, what will happen? I'll have to start off with two. We have to start off with two soluble solution. Okay. So what will happen is that I'm going to mix these two solution into one pot. All right. And then what will happen is that the ions will be able to move around. And as the ions move around, and when the insoluble salt come together, it will become a solid. Once it becomes a solid, the ions is no longer moving, so therefore that is how I get my insoluble salt. Say for example, I've got okay, this is an example. I'm going to go into the technicality behind. So for example, if I want to prepare barium sulfate, alright, so I know that barium sulfate is an insoluble salt because all sulfates are insoluble except for calcium, lead and barium. So in this case, alright, since I know that this barium sulfate is insoluble, I will have to start off with a soluble salt, starting with barium, something that is soluble, and sulfate, something sulfate that is soluble. Alright, so if you know your solubility table, we will be able to deduce that first I want to start off with barium nitrate and then sodium sulfate. So in this case, I will have my barium ions moving, my nitrate ions moving at random as well, and over here I will have my sodium as well as my sulfate ions moving at random. So the moment I mix them together, alright, okay, the ions will be able to interact with each other. For example, alright, for example, my nitrate ions can bond with sulfate and is soluble. Nitrate ions on the other hand can also bond with sulfate, which is also cannot. So basically my mistake. So nitrate ions can bond with sodium. So likewise, barium can bond with nitrate. Barium can also bond with sulfate. But the moment when barium and sulfate comes together, alright, it will become a white precipitate. And this is basically the fundamental of precipitation. And after that, what do I do? After I've mixed them together, alright, all I need to do is just to filter, alright, and then I will obtain the residue over here. And after that, I just need to wash with a little bit of distilled water to obtain my solid like this. It's that simple, isn't it?